Mr. Mayor, I just think this ties back to the last item, the deputy on Councillor Mary Margaret McMahon's thing on how the city doesn't listen. They feel that they're not listened to. And so what I heard from Councillor Nunziata and Councillor Palacio was this is supposed to be a temporary use, right? And Councillor George was right, and so is Councillor McMahon. These things are not very easily accepted, and here we are, we're extending it out another 5 years. This is not the agreement that we had with the community. Firstly, they're asked to accept something that they really kind of don't want. But you send people in, you try and convince them, and you basically say it's going to be a temporary use. And now this report comes back and it says, you know, we're going to extend it another 5 years. I think the community is right, and I think the councillor's right, to view this with a healthy degree of skepticism, if not suspicion. And I think I'm going to support Councillor Palazzo's motion. We said it was going to be temporary. It should be temporary. And that, you know, because, you know, 10 years turns into 15 years, and then, you know, then what does it turn into? Temporary starts to become permanent. And that's not what they were told. And I think there was a bargain made with the community, and the community, you know, had some serious concerns, and we should do the best that we can to keep that bargain.
Other speakers? Okay, well, I will speak now then. I'm very disappointed that this discussion is taking place, because I don't think we're being honest about what's really on the table here. Deputy Mayor, with respect, you're a lawyer. An option that exists in the lease is an option at our option. It's for us. If we choose not to exercise it, then it won't be exercised. The lease will be 10 years, and I then associate myself completely with the comments of Councillor Bailão. It's a 10-year lease, which gives us the period of time that was contemplated, which is the opening of George Street, plus a buffer, which I think we'd all agree would be wise in the circumstances. And then it provides for 2 options at our option if we wish to exercise them later on. But let's talk about the real issue here, because really by sending this lease back, probably we're going to put this arrangement that has been years in the making in peril. And I think that's really what the idea is here. And you talk about the work the councillor did, and I'll give her full marks for that. And she's been a very loyal supporter of mine on many, many things. But I also went out to that ward twice as the mayor of the city to help to talk to the residents and help with the negotiation with staff of these things, because the fact of the matter is we just don't need this shelter. We need, I think, 10 more after this. And if this gets turned around and doesn't get put in, we'll have trouble locating another shelter anywhere else in the city, because every other member of council and other people from residents associations will be empowered by this to believe that if you just push back hard enough and long enough, and if the councillor just does what I understand, I have to get elected by the very same people, And I'll go back out there again. I've been twice, and if you want me to go to a larger public meeting and explain to people, as I have to explain, I'm the one, more so than anybody else in this room, when people are homeless in this city, has to answer for it. And I'm not going to answer by saying, well, I'm terribly sorry, we just couldn't find anywhere to put a shelter because people kept pushing back. Our conscience as members of this city council, as people elected to come here and deal with these issues and deal with the problems of our most vulnerable people, should be what's on our mind now. And I have here, I got it, and the clerk could fortunately print it off, 4 pages, in some cases of unprecedented improvements or things that were done to make this shelter more acceptable to this community, and to make it to the point where when our officials, I don't want to put words in their mouth, when they were out there the last time we were out there a week or so ago, they said it was unprecedented in terms of the kind of place this would be, the number of services that would be offered to people in this building. They'll be among the best cared for people in the entire city. But the question we really have to ask ourselves is, if we send it back, and if we then have this end up, you know, on the cutting room floor, as it were, because the landlord just says, forget it, you know, the deal was the deal, then I'll be looking to people here for where it is we're going to house these people who are homeless in our city. And anybody who wants to sort of take issue with whether or not there's a homelessness problem in the city, then you know there is. And come with me. Come with me. I went this winter to many of these shelters. I went and talked to people on the street. You see how the accountability that I'm held to for this problem. I, as the mayor, who am just a member of council, just like you, and who has to get elected among exactly the same people you represent. So I think it's a very important decision time just now. And it's an important decision time for about 10 more of these we have to find in the next period of time. And I'm going to stand up and be counted on this by saying no to the motion moved by Councillor Palacio. I'm going to say no because, frankly, those options are there for our benefit. If we don't wish to exercise them, then we don't have to. We can just say, no, this shelter's done. George Street is about to open any day, and it's over. We have that option. Taking the options away is simply meant to start a renegotiation with the landlord over again. I think if people really wanted to speak up, they'd say with the hopes that those negotiations will fail and the shelter won't go there. And I'm not part of that. I went out there twice to avoid precisely this kind of moment from being in front of us. And my conscience is clear voting for this.
I want to privilege, Mr. Mayor. I want to be very clear with you and everybody else, is that we are not against shelters in any way whatsoever. I do have shelters in my area. Is the way it was done and how the community has been, through a number of communications, misled. And that's where I have an issue overall. It's not the shelter itself.
I think I will just say, I've taken more than my time. I will just say I think the beginning part of this consultation with the public was very poorly handled. And I think if we'd gone at it this way from the beginning, the result would have been different in terms of the feelings of the community. But we are where we are. So anyway, let's, I think if we've...
Can I ask you a question? I know you didn't move a motion. So you convinced me that I'm happy to vote for it. But the fact that you said that we need 10 more of these and that we already have this set up and that we have these extensions in place, it seems to me that we're left with no other choice. If we need 10 of them, this is going to become a permanent shelter. I mean, there is some logic. There is some you got to accept the logic that if there's something there and you have, you know, let's say 10 years from now, the problem isn't going to get any better, likely. It's probably only going to get worse. That, you know, at the end, we'll extend for the option because we will need a homeless shelter, and this. And,
my understanding is,
we're heading on a track that this is going to be permanent.
Staff will correct me if I'm wrong.
And if that's the case, why don't we
But
just
I think
say
that the 10 more we need or whatever are meant to look after our needs in the short term until George Street and other things are done, so that a lot of these are temporary. While we refurbish well, there's 4. Okay, I exaggerated. I think we originally needed 15, and we've now obviously got 5 or 6 that are done. So we need 4 more. 4 temporary. Okay.
But recognizing that, Mr. Mayor, you can appreciate the suspicion that the community has that this is going to be permanent, that this potentially could be permanent.
Well, but you've heard our staff. This is why I don't like having people say our staff are misleading people. You've heard them say this one. We're only talking about this one tonight, and it's one of the temporary ones. And they're saying it's temporary. When George Street is done, this will close or be repurposed if we still have the lease in place.
Right, but you can appreciate the community.
Yes. And is our job to fuel that suspicion or to try and dampen it down?
Can I just, I know I'm out of order, but I'd just like to make a comment to members of council, and I really don't appreciate some members of council thinking that I don't support a shelter. I support the shelter. I didn't support the location at first, but I negotiated with my community and we got 50 rather than 100. It's the way we communicated to the community. It's wrong. And if it was your community, you would be just as upset as I am, Councillor Bylaw, Councillor McMahon. If you say something to your community and then you retract it, then you have to justify that. And that's wrong. That's what's wrong about this whole process.
All right, on the main motion as amended, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Does that complete our business?